part. Call this Rapture Watch 2026. Of course, you know I've been date setting. Actually, you know, I'm within the confines of Scripture. He said the day and the hour. I can't give you the exact day and I can't give you the exact hour. But the times and seasons, and that's years and the season, where the Bible defines those things. He said you should know those very well. And if you know the, now go back, what you're going to get this week is some statistics and things that are going on in the world. You need to go back to last week's Sunday school, and I smash 4 lessons into 45 minutes about why I think the rapture's coming in just a couple years, if not, well, 2027 is what I think. It could be this year, but I think we're very, very close. You know, the Bible does give us timelines and a length of time. And if you've been in your Bible any time at all, you know that 7 is big in the Bible. Sabbaths are big in the Bible. That's because the whole thing points to 6,000 years of human history and 1,000-year reign of Christ. And the difficulty with it is that we are 26 years into the 7th millennium, and that cannot be. And what I tell you is that the calendars are correct, and I believe they are, but I give you a solution to it, and you want to go back and look at that. But what I did do is qualify what I'm saying about the rapture and say if these conditions exist, and I've got 7 listed here, it might be more, but I can only think of 7 that you can really kind of keep your eye on and say, you know, wow, that's taking place and that's happening. And, you know, I mean, it's like, I don't necessarily know that the Gentiles or the church has to be looking for signs, but, I mean, when you see a sign that says bridge out, and it says, you know, only for country folk, I mean, if you're from the city, will you not read the sign? And, you know, so I think God gives us indicators. If he didn't, it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense to me. Because he tells you in the latter days. Well, how do you know you're in the latter days if there's not something that indicates that? Well, there's all kinds of things that indicate that. So going upon that, I say, you know, we're getting closer to the rapture. That just goes without saying. Every day is a day closer. But when? And is God going to do this without telling his servants? Because God rarely does anything without telling his servants what's going on. And I'm talking about those that believe him. So I think that Bible-believing Christians are going to have a heads up. Most of them that I see and listen to that are Bible-believing, premillennial, they're all saying it's close. Well, I've been saying it's close for 10 years now. Compared to 1,000 years, 10 years is close. You know that, right? Okay. But what I'm saying is it's very close now. At least that's what I think. So I gave you 7 conditions that should exist if this thing is so. I'll give you, just look at one verse here with me, or actually 2, 2 Timothy 3:1, and I quote this all the time, probably wear you out with it. But he says here in 3:1, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And that's kind of one of the things you're going to have to be aware of. You know, in America, we're not in much peril, but in other parts of the world, Christians are in peril, in a lot of peril, in peril of their lives. And that's just going to keep going up. We're in peril that someone might target us. Somebody could try to target a church. They have. And you got to kind of be on your guard. So there is peril that wasn't there before. But I think it's just going to keep increasing as we go along. So that's one of the things. I mean, I get these security updates, you know, code orange, code red, you know, imminent. And we take all that seriously. We lock the doors, you know, we have a security team. I mean, we're going to take those things seriously. But the Bible's already telling me that perilous times shall come, and the fact that we have to do that kind of tells me they're here. At least a little bit of it. Now he goes on down through there, and you know, and he mentions the one of the things I noticed that he says down there that didn't make any sense till the last days. Look at verse 6. Some of you are not going to like it. It says, but for of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins and led away with divers lust. It is amazing of the radical left and the radical liberals and the radical extremists that are on the left, made up of a lot of women. See what's happened? They've been deceived. They've been led away with divers lust. I mean, everything is about if it feels good, do it. And we're going to fight for that. Well, the Bible says certain things are sin, and you're not going to change that. Sin is sin. But I thought that kind of interesting that it says they creep into houses. You know, I mean, it's like, I don't know if he's talking about the television or your phone. It could be both. But, and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with divers lust. But then in verse 13, that's the verse I want you to see. But notice there, verse 13, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. And that this whole situation is going to continue to get worse. And there's going to be more deception. And there's going to be more deceivers. And it doesn't matter whether they're the deceiver or they are the deceived also. You know? What's the guy with the Kool-Aid? Jim Jones. I mean, Jim Jones deceived his own self. He drank the Kool-Aid too. But then he deceived a bunch of other people into drinking the Kool-Aid. That's deceiving and being deceived. Either way, you're not supposed to be. The Bible says, be not deceived. That's a commandment. You're not to be deceived. And the only way you would never be deceived is if you believe that. Because it tells you what is a lie and what is truth. It tells you the difference between what's truly going on and what's deception. It lays it all out for you. So let's talk about some things that, if the end times is happening, would be in turmoil. And the first thing, I just picked the world. And I'm not talking about your ordinary turmoil that the world goes through. You know, where this nation collapses, or this fiat money system collapses here or there, Zimbabwe or Venezuela, whatever. But the whole world, it's affecting the whole world. And one of the things that's happening right now is debt saturation. The global debt exceeds 300 trillion. 300 trillion so far. And the economic growth is not even close to that. It's far outpacing economic growth. And that debt is going to come get us. It's eventually going to swallow us whole. And it's not just the United States. We have a lot of debt. I don't know, what is that, 40? Is it 40 trillion now? 39? Well, give it a day or two. 40 trillion, you can't even count to a trillion in 3 lifetimes. $40 trillion. You can't even imagine $40 trillion. But that's how much in debt we are. And eventually that's going to, well, it says 300 trillion worldwide. So we got a good portion of it, of the debt. And what's happening is you've got a loss of confidence. And you've got a shift to hard assets that's happening right now. Gold and silver is real money. If you go to the book of Exodus, I'm talking Bible-based here, you go to the book of Exodus, and he'll tell you when you make that offering, there are 3 metals. He said gold, silver, and brass. Well, brass and bronze, one's just got zinc, a little zinc in it, copper with a little zinc, and the other's got copper with a little tin. That's the difference between brass and bronze. But gold, silver, and brass, that's your penny. That's your silver quarter. That used to be your silver dollar, or your gold dollar, $20 gold piece that you don't have anymore. But when we were, well, I don't know where I was going with that. It's a loss of confidence. Let me give you an example of this. I know what I was talking about. Canaries in the gold mine. When you start seeing something happening with those precious metals, and all of a sudden they rocket upward, they are a direct correlation with your currency, your fiat money, your paper money. They're in direct relationship. When they go up, the dollar's going down. That's what happens. Inflation makes those metals go up. You know that nothing really increases in price. A pound of hamburger is still a pound of hamburger. It costs the same amount. Your dollar just lost all of its purchasing power. And if you don't believe me, you say, well, I can remember when a pound of ground beef cost $0.25. Get a silver quarter, go to a coin shop, and tell him you want the silver value of that quarter. He'll give you about $8. And then go buy your pound of hamburger. You say, why? The silver quarter didn't lose any value. But that quarter you got now is not silver. It's copper, maybe a little nickel. Your penny's made of 95% zinc. And I don't know if the nickel's still nickel. The nickel might be the only thing. I don't think it is. I think it's something else now. But I mean, they're pot metals practically. So you don't have any value in them. Give you a good example. Gold closed at $3,448 an ounce on August 31st, 2025. The reason I picked that date because that's when I started this study. So 3,448, and gold had been going up. And silver closed at $39.80 an ounce on that same date when I started this study. January 29th, 2026, gold tipped the scales at $5,598 an ounce. That's up nearly $2,000. Now I'm going to tell you the difference here. Silver tipped at $121.66 an ounce on the same day. Now, to tell you exactly what this means is, for 15 years, from like 2009 to 2024, 15 years, silver only ran up $22.50. In 15 years, the highest it ever went to was $48 an ounce. Gold only advanced $800 in 15 years. All of a sudden, in 2 months, silver's up $80 an ounce to $120, and gold's up nearly $2,000. Happened in like 2 months. There's something called smart money. And the reason they call it smart money is because smart money knows where everything is going to happen before you do. By the time CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox News, and CNN, and all the guys that are telling you how to invest your money, by the time they find out, the smart money is already there, and they're way ahead of you. And smart money, your banks, institutions, governments. And you say, what are they doing? They're hoarding gold. They've been hoarding it for several years now by the tons. Before it's like, well, gold's not money. Silver's not money anymore. So why hoard it? Investors, technology, and governments. Now governments, they're even hoarding silver. The thing that happened to gold was, where they said it wasn't money. How many know Dave Ramsey? Heard of Dave Ramsey? Okay. I like Dave a little, but if he tells me he's a Bible believer, I'm going to call him a liar. He told, now you listen, everybody's listening to Dave Ramsey. Christians are listening to Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey said about gold, it's just a shiny rock and you can't eat it. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard out of a man's mouth. When the Bible talks about gold, probably 100 times, maybe more than that, maybe 300 times. Because God identifies it as a precious metal. I mean, he's covering everything in the temple with it. Well, what happened was that when you didn't realize it, they took gold and they made it a tier 1 asset. That means it's right up there, actually better, than treasuries and cash. They put it right up there with the top. That's treasuries and cash are the top. One is where they buy our debt, and the other one is the cash. And they put it right up there. It's a tier 1 asset now. So you know who's going for it? The banks are going for it. The institutions are going for it. And they're buying it by the tons. What happened to silver? Silver went on a strategic mineral list, along with copper and some others. But now our government is starting to hoard silver. Well, why are they doing this? Well, one thing, you need silver for just about everything you can think of in electronics. Silver handles the heat with AI and these, what do they call these stations they're going to have? Data centers. They require some certain connections that can withstand the heat, and silver is it. Nothing else can replace it. Tesla cars have a certain amount of silver in them. The batteries have a certain amount of silver. So you have an industrial use, whereas gold, there's not really any industrial use of gold. Very, very little. But in silver, there's a lot. Just about everything that comes out of a hospital where they've treated it with silver, it's an antimicrobial. Water filters have silver in them. I mean, it's not only investable, is that a word? Investable? But it also has not only investment potential, but also technological potential. So the smart money has been going for it for quite a while. Anybody been telling you about it? You've been picking that up? Anybody say, hey, did you know this thing went up about $2,000 in like 2 months? Or this went up $80 and had gone up $20 in 15 years? It's in direct relation to our currency. Something is coming. And I mean it is coming. I haven't heard not one single analyst that, not the mainstream, but not one single analyst I've listened to that said something's not coming. They are all saying something's coming. And it's going to happen pretty soon. President Trump made a comment about something happening in May, June, July timeframe, middle of the year. We'll see what happens there. I don't know for certain, so I'm not going to say. But not only that, but you got geopolitical conflicts. You got major power rivalry, tensions between the U.S., Russia, and China. Those things still aren't very good. They calm down, and then they've. The problem is we've got too many things that could cause something to spark. We got Ukraine, that could spark something with Russia. We got Taiwan, that could spark something with China. Then we got Iran, that could spark something with both of them, Russia and China. So there's always seems to be something, and it's just like a cauldron. So I'm not going to tell you that I've come here today and this is a world in turmoil, but it is a world that is brewing turmoil. And sooner or later it's going to happen. Now, as far as cataclysmic events, none really to speak of, but there was something. We've talked about the solar maximum, where the sun goes through its 11-year cycle, and there has been, one day there was like 3 to 4 X flares. Now, we have a lot of G flares, and X flares are a little bit more severe than the G flares. Now, there's some other things involved of whether it's going to be what we call a Carrington event. Carrington event was in 1800 and something, 1850 something, I think it was. A solar flare was of such, and the guy was watching it when it happened. He was kind of reflecting on a piece of paper, and he was drawing in all the sunspots when all of a sudden he sees this flash, projected on the white paper. And next thing you know, man, the only thing that was electrical was telegraph. And the telegraphs were going crazy. They were gibbering, and they're ticking away. And some guy said, "Unhook your battery." So he unhooked his battery, and the thing ran without the battery. They had sparks flying, caused a bunch of fires and everything. But that was about the only thing that it really affected. But they said that the size of that thing was so great that our electrical grid today, most of it couldn't stand it. It literally charged anything that would be wire. This would go right through, so all of your real fine electronics would get fried. That's the Carrington effect. And we should be through the 11-year maximum. All of a sudden now it seems to be extended, and it's growing in intensity. And they had 3 X flares in a row. None of them, there's a couple things. It has to be lined up with Earth. Okay, you can't have one coming off the side of the sun going the other direction. That won't affect us. But the problem is they start seeing it coming around, man. They see this real active. I mean, some really sunspots are large and grouped together. And they're telling you, man, this one ain't good, this one ain't good. And if it happens to erupt and you have a coronal mass ejection, it spews all that energy right toward Earth. Now, the gamma hits you in a couple minutes. But the particles, the bigger particles, it takes about 72 hours, sometimes even less. All depends how fast it's coming at you. And when it hits the atmosphere, that's when you get the borealis. What is it? Aurora borealis. I never can say that right. And that's why, and when that Carrington effect happened, they were watching the aurora borealis at the equator. In fact, people got up to go to work because it looked like it was daylight outside. That's how lit up it was. You get one like that, and man, if your power grid goes out, if you live in a city like New York or Chicago or someplace like that, they just can't repair that overnight. It could take months. And usually within months, the death toll starts really rising. It could be as much as a year if they can get them. Because they'll take out these huge, what do you call those huge stations? Substations, huh? Transformers, substations. They'll take those out. All right. The funny thing is that when you have this intensity in the sun, you have more volcanoes and earthquakes, especially earthquakes, because you got to remember that what's being fired at the earth is magnetically charged, and now you have a magnetic poles of the earth, and evidently it does something. I don't quite understand the science and all of it, but that's when they start having some. In the year 2025 was active, highly deadly year for earthquakes with 16 major events. That's over a certain magnitude. About 8,000 fatalities. I can't pronounce these places. Kamchatka earthquake was 8.8. That's big. Now earthquakes, it matters how deep they are. If you get one that's closer to the surface, man, you can have a 6.0 and it'll tear your town to pieces. But if it's real deep, it doesn't have the power on the surface. So they matter by depth too, not just, and that's how, I think that's how they measure magnitude. Is it by destruction? Is that how they go by? Or is it by seismic? Anyway, let's see. The Kamchatka earthquake was the first M8 earthquake since 2021, the sixth largest instrumentally recorded earthquake since records began. And the Bible says earthquakes in diverse places, and places where they were supposed to be not extinct, they weren't active. That all of a sudden now they become active again. See, the deadliest event of the year was a 7.7 to 7.9 in Myanmar, which caused unprecedented destruction in much of the country, killed at least 5,400 people, although the true death toll is believed to be significantly higher. This was followed by a 6.0 in Afghanistan in August that killed over 2,200 people, almost all of them in the Kunar province. Other notable and deadly earthquakes occurred in China, Philippines, Bangladesh, and Guatemala. So while you got all that going on, and I'm not going to say that's too much above normal, but it is a little bit. The fact that the intensities are great, but you still got pandemic potential. They keep talking about these novel diseases that continue to emerge. It's bad enough that God is giving us these diseases, viruses and things, and what do? We send them to the lab and give it gain of function so we can kill more people with it. That's all we need. To be messing around with something that God has put on. I mean, they're taking viruses that wouldn't affect you as a human, and they've made it to where it will pass over to a human. That's called gain of function. That's what happened with COVID. But then you have cyber warfare going on, and that thing's growing big time. Civil unrest. I'm a little bit worried about AI. You know, there's no doubt that when the beast comes to power and they raise up an image to the beast, it'll be AI. It'll not only be AI, but it'll be a spirit that's connected with AI. And it'll know everything about you, and it can cause you to do anything it wants you to do. It can cause you to take the mark. It can cause you to be killed. You've never seen anything in your life, man. If AI's got control of everything, you're in your car, next thing you know, it's swerving you off a cliff or into a semi. Or slamming on the brakes and causing you to get rear-ended at 75 miles per hour. I mean, or take it, just anything, man. It could, if it controls anything and everything, I mean, it could take everything in a refrigerator and rot it, then turn it right back on and act like nothing's. I don't want nothing like that. I don't like smart TVs, Give me the stupid one. That's bad enough. But with a smart one, I don't need anything smarter than me telling me what to do, Well, maybe I do, but I'm not listening to it. Matthew 24, verse 6 and 7 says, Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. And that's what we're hearing. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences. There's your lab-modified gain-of-function things that are going on. Earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So I would expect that now he could be talking about Daniel's 70th week, what we call the tribulation. He could be talking about specifically that time frame, but it's leading up to it. And you and I are right here leading up to it. So I would think there would be an increase in these things. I got 7 things here. The next thing would be Israel in turmoil. My reasoning for believing that Israel will be in turmoil is because the Antichrist is the white horse rider. He's coming to rescue Israel from a situation, and he is the Antichrist. Revelation chapter 6, he carries a bow. He has a crown on his head. Jesus Christ comes back with many crowns, and he has a sword that comes out of his mouth. He doesn't have a bow. And that bowman is always connected. I think the first time you mentioned talks about, who's the guy? Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. That's the bowman. And anyway, I'm not going to get into a lot of that, but I forgot what I was going to say. I'm running about on a 6-cylinder, I'm running on 3. I had an episode yesterday, don't know what happened to me. And I've been trying to recover from it, and I'm still a little weak. But just some weird thing. I think it had to do with the weather. I've never had anything put me down that quick, though. And I was actually working out and did 3 miles and did some lifting, and I felt fairly good when I got done. But I was driving, and next thing you know, man, I got real dizzy. Now, this happened to me before. It was always weather-related, but this thing, I think it's a combination of working out and that, too. I mean, I could barely get out of a chair for hours. Had something to eat, started to feel better, so it might have been some sugar thing. But my mind is not very clear this morning. Okay, anti-Semitism continues to fester worldwide, and it continues to grow. Doesn't seem to matter that, voices are out there and defending Israel. It seems like the world is intent. You won't believe these numbers. Of course, the Iran regime may fall, but we don't know what's going to take its place. You would think we'd get something better, but we don't always get something better, do we? Didn't happen in Iraq. Man, that situation went, really bad. So we'll see if we can do a better job this time in Iran. That's if we can get that regime out of there. The other thing is that America is kind of exerting their will on Israel, and that's not good for us. America, we're strong, we're mighty, and God doesn't care about you. If you don't believe me, you read Isaiah chapter 40. God does not care about you as a nation. You're nothing to him. You're the dust on the scale. You're the drop in the bucket. Those are the terms that are used in Isaiah 40. Israel is the apple of God's eye. So I think what we should do is, in knowing that, is take that in consideration when we're dealing with Israel. So are they special? Yes, they're special. They're special. They're special to God. And you better leave them alone. Or you better help them. But don't tell them what to do. Don't tell them they can't take the West Bank, which is Samaria and Judea, when God tells them they're supposed to have it. Because now you're telling them that they can't have it, and God's saying they can. Now you become the enemy of God. And I just don't think we're smart. I don't care who the politician is. Anyway, United States in 2024, I don't know why I couldn't find 2025, but as far as anti-Semitic incidents, had 9,354 incidents. That's the highest ever tracked by the Defamation League. Is that American Defamation League? I think it is, ADL. 9,354 anti-Semitic incidents. United Kingdom, 2025, they're up to date, 3,700 incidents. Now, if it declined this year, it's only because they were cracking down on some of that stuff, which I'm glad they were. France in 2025 had 1,320 anti-Semitic acts. Here's the thing that blew my mind. Global attitudes. A large global survey found that approximately 46% of adults worldwide, not talking about the kids, just the adults, hold anti-Semitic views. Half the population of the adult world is anti-Semitic. That equates to they're saying it equates to over 2 billion people. 2 billion people hate between 14 and 16 million people on the earth. 2 billion. That means they're like 1%, not even 1%, 1.4%. 2 billion hating 14 to 17 million, 16 million Jews that are on the earth. Crazy. And your Bible says, where in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. So what is that? There's a spiritual thing going on. You can't explain it. Explain it to me. Explain it to me. Somebody in Europe hating somebody in Israel. Why? Explain to me how all these professors in these universities that are teaching our kids to hate Jews, explain to me why they hate them. What could 16 million Jews versus 8 billion people on this planet, what could they have done that's so grievous besides exist? It's because they're God's people. And somebody's going after them. The prince of the power of the air. Am I making noise? Let me move that up just a little bit. We'll see if that works. The next one is American turmoil. And like I said, something's been brewing, and rumor has it, around the middle of the year, something's going to unfold. It's going to be a major shift in currency. What Trump has been told by his advisors, and it's probably true, is that as long as we're the default currency in the world, we can never get rid of this debt. And we can never go back to manufacturing. It's not going to happen. We can't compete because we are the default currency. We cannot compete with the rest of the world. So they're going to dump it. And rumor has it they're going to dump it this year. And when they do, man, your dollar's taking a hit like you wouldn't believe. Now, I don't know how if they're going to soften it. I think one of the ways he's going to soften it, he's been talking about giving you dividend checks, from all the taxes and everything. I think that's going to be kind of, yeah, we're going to take it out of your left pocket, but we're going to put some in your right pocket. Look, I understand politicians, they lie for a reason. Sometimes, some of them do. Some of them just lie. Some of them lie for a reason because the truth you can't handle. You can't handle it. Some of you got that. They really can't. I'm telling you, people, they lose it. So they tell them what they just, as little as they can get by with and leave it at that. There's been some talk that we are already into or going into a recession, even though the numbers are looking good. We're adding what is it, $1 trillion about every 3 months? 4 months. I mean, it's like $1 trillion every 3 months now. Even with all the, the things that tariffs, even with all the tariffs coming in, the money coming in from the tariffs, it's not even slightly offsetting our spending. I mean, we're spending ourselves literally to death as a nation. But you end up paying for that, right? You're getting the bill. We're getting the bill for it. And when it happens, man, it's going to be, you'll probably lose, I imagine the first day you'll lose about 20% of everything you have. 20%. And then every day after that will keep growing. Smart money already knows that. They're already out. I mean, what's his name? Who's the guy that does all the investing? Buffett. Buffett, first he went into cash, now he's going into gold. He knows, smart money knows. They can see it coming. They got analysts that are figuring this thing out. Well, I don't think we can survive this because we just spend ourselves to death. And the midterms caused our government to not be so forthcoming. Because you know what happens if you go into a recession before the midterms? You lose. They don't want to lose the House. They don't want to lose the Senate. And they're probably going to. Our economy is as fragile as glass. If you knew, you'd be terrified. But it really is. And sooner or later, man, the bow's going to break. All right. One of the other things I mentioned was the revitalization of Europe. And one of the problems, I would have never believed this, but I believe my Bible. If I didn't have the Bible telling me what it's telling me about Europe, I would never believe it. I would say that Europe is done, but they're not. We know that the economic center of the world will happen in Italy. So some things have been going on since 2011, and it's the control of the Muslim. See, you can't have an economic boom and have a Muslim-controlled society. It doesn't work. One thing is they don't know how to be honest, and capitalism and Islam just don't kind of mix. In Islam, they take what they want and kill you if you don't give it to them, and capitalism, is just a back and forth. Well, what you've got, you need to read Revelation 18. You have a capitalistic thing, and they're making people rich by the goods that they have, and those goods are centered right there in Europe, in the midst of the Mediterranean. So the laws are starting to be passed against certain Muslim things it's going to end up sending a lot of them home. See, in France in 2011, I didn't know this, they were the first European country to ban full-face veils in all public places. Belgium in 2011 and Austria in 2017, Denmark in 2018, Bulgaria in 2016, they did the same thing, they banned it. Switzerland in 2021 approved that, and it was implemented in 2025. So they see this ideology just spoiling them. It's going to ruin them. And the only way to get that ideology out of there is change their ideology or thwart it. And I got a feeling that either a lot of them are going to go home or they're going to convert. I'm not certain which way it's going to go. But there's new laws. Portugal in 2025, bill proposed ban on face coverings and fines up to 2,000 pounds. That's a hefty fine. Italy in 2025 proposed nationwide ban and an oversight of the Islamic organization. That's pretty much controlling Islam in Italy. And that's pretty much of getting rid of it. They might as well say they banned it, because Islam is not going to be controlled by Italy, by the government of Italy. And of course, they're trying to get them to assimilate and get along, but they're not. They're separating, they're organizing, they're plotting. That's Islam. Then I mentioned about a resurgence of the Roman Catholic Church. And this is one of those kind of it's moving, but it's moving slowly. There's about 1.3 billion Catholics in the world. Now, if you include Orthodox, which I do, whether it be the Oriental Orthodox or the Eastern Orthodox, it adds it up to about 1.7 billion folks, because they pretty much believe the same things. They just don't, right now, kowtow to the Pope, although I think they definitely listen to him. The strongest growth is in Africa and Asia, and there's been a global shift southward. Trying to make a global shift southward, but you'll continue to see it grow. People are starting to, ever since the Charlie Kirk thing, which Charlie Kirk was a decent man, and he did preach the gospel. But there's been this shift toward religion, and the Catholic Church is right there willing to take their share of what they can grab. And Charlie Kirk was not Catholic. Evangelical, yes, but not Catholic. Charlie Kirk believed in salvation by grace through faith. Roman Catholicism teaches work salvation. There's a big difference between those two. But the whole world has seemed to be energized and charged with this thing. Man, they're having, I don't know, I wouldn't call it revivals, but they're having these grand meetings and thousands of people, and we are Charlie. But the problem is that you've got these religions that are maneuvering their way into it, and the one that's going to come out on top is Roman Catholicism. Mark my words. They've been in decline for years in Europe, and they're starting to show signs of renewal. They are about 20%. I would have never believed that. I always thought they were a lot more in America. But they're only about 20% here. They are a minority here. But you would think, listening to Fox News, the conservative right of the Catholic Church, and then you've got CNN, the conservative left of the Catholic Church. It's called a chameleon. But you would think when you would think that they're a majority the way they talk about the Pope. They don't talk about any other preacher that way, except to, accuse them. They're all going to fall under it. The ones that are left here, they got no choice. One world religion, okay? One world authority. It's going to be one world. The New World Order is coming, and there's only going to be one chief. And the Roman Catholic Church is going to be the religion. You're not going to be able to argue with it, because a man with supernatural capabilities is going to be heading it up. Well, you going to argue with him? Guy that can call down fire from heaven, or that can heal, that can do miracles. What are you going to do? Argue with him? No, you're going to think he's it. He ain't it. Lying signs and wonders. That's 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and he'll have them. The Catholic Church also continues a media blitz to bring all into the fold. They say all roads lead to Rome. Well, that's pretty much what's happening here. They're trying to get everybody to get in. They've been trying for years. They pretty much were able to get the charismatics at least to come over to some degree, and the Baptists are the holdout. Although, a lot of Baptists don't have their doctrine correct these days. Very few people have their doctrine correct because they don't believe the Bible anymore. They're looking at everything around them saying, well, this doesn't line up, that doesn't line up. You watch God line it up in a hurry. I've seen things change too quickly, too fast, on a dime, and then realize, man, God can do this thing. And it can look exactly the opposite of what that book says, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, look what just happened. And it happened overnight. You better not bet against him, I'll tell you that. All right, the next thing is Israel's plans to begin the daily sacrifice. Well, nothing's really happened there. And the reason we chose that, that's one of them, is because the daily sacrifice begins the tribulation. Because in the middle of the week, he causes those daily sacrifices to cease. Well, they can't cease unless they start. And that daily sacrifice is just the altar, not the temple. They do not need the temple. If you go back to Ezra, they offered sacrifices without the temple being rebuilt. They just need to erect the altar. Well, For years, the Jews couldn't do anything on that mount. If they went up there and acted like they bowed their head, they got arrested. Now Jews are openly praying on the Temple Mount. Openly. And nobody's arresting them. That's a big development because we're talking decades. They couldn't go up there and pray or do anything. Couldn't read their Bible. Couldn't read the Old Testament. They couldn't do anything like that. The other thing is that there's tunnels, and they say these run alongside the Temple Mount, but wouldn't surprise me that the Jews aren't all the way under the Temple Mount in these tunnels. But they're finding out there's a lot of them down there. They've discovered roads, halls, cisterns, chambers. And it wouldn't surprise me when they're down there, looking for all this stuff, they don't find everything they need to go inside their temple. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't find what's remains of the last red heifer that was sacrificed, because they need those ashes. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they found the table of showbread, or they found the altar of incense, or the golden candlestick. It wouldn't surprise me if they find some replica of maybe an Ark of the Covenant. I don't know what they used during Christ's day, if they even had one. By the way, there are two. You know that, right? There's one that's wrapped in gold, and Bezalel, whatever his name is the one that built that, but Moses built one too. And his was just wood. But there are two arks. Anyway. But some people think they're secretly digging underneath that mount. The verse I'll give you is Daniel 8:11. It says, "Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down." And we kind of covered that in Revelation 17 and 18. But when I hear news about them possibilities starting up that daily sacrifice, I'm all ears. I'll go help them. They've got their altar ready. Yeah, I can't even touch it probably. But they've got their altar ready, and it can't be hewn stone. It's not. These are stones that they have collected that fit together perfectly. But there's never been a tool put to them. And they've got this thing, and all they got to do is just put it together. Now, I don't know who can touch it. I don't know. If you touch a dead body, you have to be cleansed. And that's what those ashes were for from that red heifer. Cleanse the priest. And of course, Israel's been incorporating their priests as far as their fighting units. Well, the priests are against it. These rabbis are against it because they know if they touch a dead body, they're unclean, and there's no way for them to get clean. They go to a funeral. So they need these ashes to sprinkle them, and it's a cleansing. It's all pictures and stuff, but it's something that God required back there. And so either, I don't know if they can use these red heifers that are over there. I don't know if they're going to find the ashes left from the first one, because I would have thought those Jews would have thought that pretty important. I don't know if it was the 9th one. Only 9 heifers have been sacrificed, and this would be the 10th, I think. So, but the ones they got, they had 5 of them. I think they've already eliminated 3. They only got 2 left. I mean, they're kind of dragging it out here, and I'm thinking, makes me wonder. They're like, yeah, we're just kind of use this as a distraction. We've already got the ashes, But wouldn't that be something? If you hear news that they're going to erect that temple and offer sacrifice, but I can tell you what's going to precipitate that. When Israel loses her friend, America. And when Israel loses America and we can no longer come to their aid, and all of them are sharpening their swords and their teeth to attack Israel, Israel will do it. They'll realize that if there's a God in heaven, we've got to do this. Right now, nothing. But when you've got this existential threat, your existence is called in question, and they're surrounding you, get the altar up there. And when they do that, I think we're out of here. Last. This is the crazy one, real contact with extraterrestrials. And the reason I believe that is because it's happened before, and it's in your Bible. It's happened actually several times. Congress passed a law, H.R. 1187, UAP Transparency Act. It's unidentified aerial phenomenon, right? Transparency Act. The purpose is to declassify information, making it available to the public. I thought there was no such thing as UFOs. Now we got legislation so they can tell us. Then there's a UAP Disclosure Act of 2025 that would preserve and centralize all federal records on UAPs and review them for declassification. So now we got legislation so that we can finally know what's been going on with our governments or the governments of this world concerning these UFOs. Then you have the National Defense Authorization Act, and I don't know if this is going to be the fiscal year 2026, but it's to brief Congress on the number of intercepts of UAPs. You know, real intercepts. Those little Tic Tacs flying around, they've got pictures of. Former President Barack Obama just interviewed a little while ago, and he recently admitted that aliens are real. President Trump has also acknowledged their existence. So are they real? Of course they're real. The Bible says, as it was in the days of Noah. Let me read that to you. It said, it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, their daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, those aren't men, they're angels. The sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair and took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, because they came from, God made them. And he said, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days. Evidently, this breeding between these angels that fell, that become men, with these ladies or these women, I don't know what we can call them, but a breed of giants was the result of it. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, they bare children to them, and the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. It's happened in the days of Noah. And what's happened there is that these angels came down here, and now they had a purpose. They just didn't take a liking to the women down here. That wasn't the main thing. The main thing was that there was a seed promised in Genesis 3:15 that would crush the devil, that would destroy the devil, that would crush his head. And the devil was bound and determined to eliminate that seed. And it was the seed of the woman. Woman doesn't have a seed. Man has the seed. But what did they come after? These sons of God came after the women, because they're males, they're females. And they got down to 8 people on this earth that weren't contaminated with genetic material from an angel. Got down to 8 people. If it had done those 8, it'd have been over with. But God said, that woman's going to have a seed. That woman did have a seed. Isaiah 7:14 says, behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Emmanuel, meaning God with us. But they got down to 8 people. Now, look what Luke 17 says, verse 26, 28, and I went way over. It says, and as it was in the days of Noah, different spelling, same name. That's Greek to English instead of Hebrew to English. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be in the days of the Son of Man, before the second advent. It says, now, you got to stay with me here. They did eat. Okay? I think we've been eating since time. Even in the garden, they ate. So I don't know if this is news or something. They did eat. They drank. They married wives. And I believe that Genesis 6 said they took them wives. They were given in marriage. Their seed or their offspring were given in marriage. Until the day that Noah entered the ark and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they came back again. And they sold, they planted, they builded. So as it was in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Lot, something came down, and something is coming down again. Now, the trick is for them to deceive the world into thinking they're just some extraterrestrial, on a nearby planet, or they've got a wormhole that kind of led right to us or something. They'll come up with something. They're not going to tell you, hey, this is the devil and his imps, and we're here to take over the world. But that's exactly what they're there to do. And there probably won't be just 100, 200, maybe, or 10,000. There'll be millions of them. There's a third of the host that's fallen, and they're coming down. So whenever I hear about extraterrestrials, any day, it wouldn't surprise me if I went home right now and they had on the news, we've got contact. They sent a message, we understand it. I'm like, about time. Been waiting for years, like what's the problem here? I mean, they show up and they do this, they do that. There's probably underwater bases, there's probably underground bases, because remember, something coming down, something coming up. Book of Revelation, something comes down, something comes up. Just keep remembering that. Come from anywhere. So I keep my eye on those things. So I guess I can say that right now, yeah, I look like I'm full of beans and apple butter by dating the rapture, because not much has happened since I brought this to you December 31st of 2025. No. Was it December 31st? August 31st of 25. So it's been about 5 months. But things are brewing. Things are brewing. Just hang tight. It's coming. And if it's so that we're that close, things will be accelerating here. Quite a lot. Okay, any questions what I covered? I went way too long. Sorry about that. Okay, let's take a break till about quarter after. I'll preach quicker. I'm sorry.